I'm gonna come.
We are also praying for the people of Puerto Rico. We love Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico. And we also love Puerto Rico.
Let's go. Boom. Hello, everyone. This is Rolo, the Puerto Rican Pistolero. And this is also episode 6 of Rolo's Rants. Happy Sunday, everybody. You made it through the weekend. You survived. You didn't go too crazy partying or anything like that, I hope. And if you did, you've recovered. And you'll be okay for the week that is to come. We originally had a guest scheduled for this evening, but they had to reschedule. So, as any good host, I had to shuffle things around and figure out what I was going to do for this show at the last minute, but that's okay. This is what we do. This is why we've done the show solo so far, so that we can get used to these things. We've been suffering from some internet issues here as well. If it's related with the cyber attack that occurred, I don't know. I would not be able to confirm nor deny such things. But who knows? It's possible. The world is a crazy place these days. And, we're just in it. We're just in it, guys. That's it. That's all there is to it. So it's good to see everyone in the chat. Let's see. Oh, we've got some faces that are familiar from the G&G side, but I don't feel like I've seen you here in a while. So we've got Wayfair as usual. He's here. He beat Comic Misconceptions for the first time, I think, since we started doing Rolo's Rants with the 787, the Puerto Rico area code. Thank you so much for that. Wayfair, Comic Misconceptions in a close second. Bruce, as usual. Bruce is always holding it down. He's always in the top 3 typically of showing up. We've got Glassman 1381. Glassman, I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. Correct me if I'm wrong. Charles CDV. Charles D. Vane. CDV as the old man calls him. Andrew Verdna in the chat. We got Jimmy the Kaz. And of course we have Carla. How are you doing this evening, Carla? With the Hola, Senor de la Vega. I am doing great this evening, Carla. It's good to see you. Mod extraordinaire. Rebel Scum It's great to see you too. You weren't late at all. You were here right on time. Warsaw Patriot, Cerberus, and Apollo rounding out the lineup. It's great to see you all this evening. So we got 25 people watching. We're back at our normal time. No shenanigans today, even though we've had some changes to the lineup today, but that's okay because we are ready to go. So the topics that we've got lined up tonight, just kind of loosely talking, let's be honest, you know that we go on different tangents, are number one, this is episode, and you guys know that if you've been watching this channel for a while, I like to use the triple number nomenclature just because I feel like getting to 1,000 episodes of anything is really tough. So go for 3 digits, and if you need the 4th one, you can add it, but 3 digits should cover you for pretty much almost anything. How's it going, CNT Design and Arms? Great to see you, bud. And Dengar Renegade. So this is episode 006, and or as some people might say it is 006. So I started with that great quote from GoldenEye. For England, James, and then that was Alex Trevelyan, 006, the treacherous MI6 agent who had faked his own death only to become Giannis and, try to control GoldenEye later on. He tries to kind of have some solidarity at the end with James Bond. Bond's not having it. He's like, no, for me. Boom! And takes him out there. That scene was, of course, filmed in, now a lot of it was CGI and models and things like that, of course. But that was the Observatorio de Arecibo, the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, which was the world's largest radio telescope for, almost 4 decades, more than that. And you can check that out. It's a great attraction, actually. And SETI is over there. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence. So there have been a lot of movies that have been filmed or had scenes there or referenced it. So pretty famous site. Great scene from a great movie. And obviously the movie that spawned what probably, well, I wouldn't even say it's probably, you can't really dispute it, first-person shooters on consoles, on video game consoles. So obviously shooters had been, a top genre on PCs, throughout the 90s, with Wolfenstein, Doom, Marathon, other franchises, clones of those franchises, Half-Life, Counter-Strike. So all of those games were huge, but GoldenEye, I think, really brought, first-person shooters on the map. Split-screen gaming really to a premium on the Nintendo 64. And the fun that goes with that, screen looking, playing, fists only, or I should say slappers only with Odd Job. So, and playing with the golden gun, all those different combinations. So I think that, GoldenEye really is that quintessential moment in console gaming that we'll remember. I would say that Halo probably comes after that. For the PC, it's definitely, Wolfenstein and Doom, Half-Life, Counter-Strike, Half-Life 2 for physics and all that and storytelling. And then, after that, we start seeing a little bit close enough features between PCs and consoles that, you could have experiences between the two. And obviously PCs give you the higher fidelity, higher resolutions, frame rates, better visual fidelity. But, by, I would say getting towards the end of the 360 era into the PS4, one era, we're a little bit closer to PCs now, and you start seeing that really more cross-platform variety. But it was pretty good stuff going into that and watching those. The huge differences, obviously, between the game and the movies, but enough similarities that you're like, oh yeah, I remember this is this place and this is that place. And even though the visuals can look a little bit rough today, they'd gotten to the point where you could appreciate them and have that fun, really of feeling like you're interacting with a film. And that's not something that we'd gotten really on consoles up to that point. So it was a big deal. And I remember being a Nintendo guy up to that point, because I didn't get a PC. Now I'm just being like an old man rambling here, talking about my gaming history. But I remember we didn't have a PC until we got a Windows 98 HP Pavilion. We got it in the late 90s, so it had to have been around 99, I think. I'm pretty sure it was like a 550 megahertz Pentium 3 with 128 megabytes of RAM and a 4 megabyte video card. I think it was an NVIDIA. I don't even remember what it was. And that's the first experience that I had with PC gaming on a 56K modem. So that's really where I got to when it came to that. I kind of went past the floppy disk era. I was a late bloomer when it came to those things. I know that my uncle really got into that, played a lot of Doom and Wolfenstein back in the day. I did play some of the old Indiana Jones games on PC. I had a friend that had a PC. And I used to go over to his house and, play PC games randomly. That's where I played a lot of the X-Wing and TIE Fighter games as well. Dark Forces, all that. Didn't really get to play them that much because they weren't on my PCs. But those were good times. They definitely were. But I was mostly a Nintendo guy until the first Xbox. Played a lot of Dreamcast at one of my best friends' houses back in the day. Spawn and the Demon's Hand. Loved that. But it really all started with shooters with GoldenEye. So just wanted to use that opportunity for 006. Now I can do this next week too and talk about like the guns of James Bond. Maybe I'll do that. Who knows? If you guys would like that. It's been done before, but it's all good. So we can talk about the guns of James Bond, my favorite ones. And we'll follow up next week with that. But let's talk about a little bit about Nikki Haley. So we're going to go a little bit in reverse order from how I have the items listed here on the title screen, but that's okay. It's my show. I can do whatever I want. So we've got Nikki Haley getting trounced once again in the Republican Party primaries. And I mean, I don't really know what to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. She does not want to go anywhere. It does not matter how embarrassing a defeat she's dealing with. It doesn't matter where the defeat is taking place, what the margin of defeat is. She just refuses to go. And, there are a few, obviously, different theories behind this. Is she trying to push this as far as she can, hoping that Trump gets, thrown in prison for one of these crazy cases that's going on, and that she, being the only one standing in the race, basically becomes the de facto nominee at the Republican Party convention. Is she hoping to make some sort of third party alliance? I know that RFK is running for third party at this point. Could she make a move with him? Will she run counter to him? Is there, what really is going on here? So this is from the Federalist, and it reads, Haley refuses to end campaign following Trump victory in South Carolina. Now, I believe that she lost in one of the largest margins in history when it comes to a candidate in the state that they're from or that they've represented in the past. So it was something like 20 points. And I think that Marco Rubio was held the previous record for Florida against Trump, and that was 19 points, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see if that says that here. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley refused to quit the presidential race Saturday following an overwhelming defeat in her own state. The Associated Press called the contest for the Republican frontrunner Donald Trump shortly after polls closed, quote, further consolidating his path to a third straight GOP nomination. The former president has now carried every race for delegates as he heads for a rematch with the Democrat incumbent. Haley spoke to supporters in Charleston as Trump was declared the winner, 60% to 40% at the time of her speech. I know 40% is not 50%, but I also know 40% is not some tiny group, Haley said, pledging to stay in the race following the humiliating 20-point upset in the state she served 2 terms as governor. I said earlier this week that no matter what happens in South Carolina, that I would continue to run for president. Haley added, I'm a woman of my word. The next Republican primary will be held in Michigan on Tuesday, where Haley said she's headed tomorrow. Quote, and we're headed to the Super Tuesday states throughout all of next week, she said, in reference to the 16 states and territories with GOP nominating contests scheduled on March 5th. Trump spoke to supporters with a victory speech in Columbia. Quote, I've never seen the Republican Party so unified, Trump said, calling the night a fantastic evening. We're going to say, Joe, you're fired. The former president didn't mention his former UN ambassador by name. Haley has remained defiant in the campaign despite losses in the 5-state and territory nominating contest for delegates at the Republican National Convention this summer. Earlier this month, the former governor lost the primary in New Hampshire by 11 points after she placed a distant third in the Iowa caucuses. In Nevada, a lone challenger to the former president lost a symbolic primary to, quote, none of these candidates, end quote. Trump won the Nevada caucuses, awarding him the majority of delegates. Yeah, the Nevada one always makes me laugh. Like, how can you not laugh at that? It's pretty hilarious that you would just get owned. So, I mean, what do you guys think in the chat? Is she sticking around? You know, CNT Designs and Arms says, I think Nikki goes to the Democratic ticket and replaces Biden, or goes to the VP spot. That would be unprecedented. And I'm not sure, you know, because a lot of people, I'm sure, especially the last time around, look, there are certain things you can't say on YouTube about certain electoral events. But let's say that the last time around, a lot of the motivation was that a lot of people on the left, or maybe people that were independent or disaffected, centrist Republicans, were pushed by like hatred towards Trump or disdain for Trump. We know that was a big percentage, despite Trump having historic levels of people voting for him himself. So is that going to be a factor this time around? Is it the same? Is it going to happen, basically 3 times in a row now with Trump? Or are people going to now feel more disaffected than ever and basically say, I'm not going to vote for Trump because I really don't like him, but I'm not going to vote for anybody on the left because they've got nobody that compels me. I don't know. I really don't know how that's going to work out. So is she going to try to come in as some independent Trojan horse now to get those Republicans to try not to vote for Trump? It's possible that she tries to do that. And that may be the most effective strategy, but I almost feel like if you're at the point where you would vote for somebody that you know is going to lose, just not to get Trump, so that you don't have to vote for Biden or Kamala or whoever they decide to put up there on the Democrat ticket. I mean, is it, you just don't want to vote for that? You don't want, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to know what you vote for at the end of the day. So I always think it's a little bit weird when people do stuff like that. It's like, just, if you don't want somebody, vote against them. It's okay. You don't have to tell anybody what you did later on. It's totally private. That's the way it should be. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I don't know if Newsom's got a shot. Warsaw Patriot. I feel like those debates against DeSantis and a lot of, having him out there in the press over the last few months was really kind of a trial balloon just to kind of see how people reacted to him. And I think they got what they needed. I think they kind of figured out who Newsom is, what he brings to the table for them. And it's not really what they want. So it works for the microcosm that is New York. I mean, not New York, that is California. But I really think that, California is so far gone and so distorted because of the way that the primary system is set up there, with jungle primaries, and essentially in the end, not having candidates from each party running against each other, but whoever the top 2 are, and they can be from the same party. So it kind of ensures that in California, in Newsom's case, nobody ever really is there to give a counterpoint. So it distorts everything, and it makes people that you may think are more electable nationally just completely, persona non grata. So, because California was already on a bad trajectory, and Newsom just made it even worse. Like, the state's a disaster. There's a reason why so many people there are leaving and why they want to buffer their numbers with illegal migrants. That's really what it is. They want that because it's the only way they can maintain the population that they've got and, be able to gain the revenue through taxes in order to sustain the different, programs that they have there that are just completely bonkers and are leading to the self-destruction of that state, which is a shame because it's a beautiful state. But I mean, that's the way it is. The biggest concern is that a lot of things that California does permeate to the rest of the states, whether they're, blue or red, it doesn't really matter. Somehow this always seems to happen. At least it has for the last, 2 or 3 decades. So this is pretty much where I think Newsom's not, I think they put him out there. It doesn't really work out for them. And I think they've kind of figured that out. And, he looks too much like Patrick Bateman. Like there's too much American Psycho there with everything behind him that I just think it doesn't work. Newsom is a no-go. Obviously, his record on guns is awful. His whole 28th Amendment spiel, what he's tried to do with assault weapon bans, assault weapons, quote unquote. So, it's pretty much going to be a case of, I don't know what Nikki has to do in order to become an independent, how quickly she's got to leave. I see Ad Victoriam mentioning if Haley stays in the primary and loses, she could be off the ballot in some states. Like, I don't know how that's going to work. I haven't checked that out because I still don't know what her plan is here. Is she going to go on a kamikaze mission to the end and like just try to sabotage Trump and disrupt, the Republican Party in some way? I don't know. I don't know if that's what she plans on doing. And I'm concerned about that. I think that Trump does need to choose a vice presidential candidate soon. I think at this point you have to know Nikki Haley has no shot. She's lost every race that she's needed to win. There's no way with her losing her home state that she's going to be able to pick up one of these other primaries. And I think that as long as it goes on that everybody else seems to know the same thing, it's just going to, be a snowball effect, and Trump is going to keep winning by larger and larger margins as time goes on. So I think she's got to go. Again, it really just depends on what is the plan here. Are the powers that be trying to sabotage Trump's campaign? Or are they, is she solely behind this and she's just stubborn as hell and she's doing this for her own ego? I don't know. So those two could have the same outcome of somebody staying in the race far longer than they need to, but they could have different motivations as well. It could just be that it's for vanity and she's like, no, I'm just going to keep going here because I'm pissed off and I hate this guy. So we'll have to wait and see. Warsaw Patriot, I've said it here before, and I was actually going to, and I was going to talk about it right, pretty much right now, were the VP candidates. I know that earlier this week, it seems like Trump threw out who his VP choices might be. Lo and behold, his top two were the top two that I said. And I know a lot of people were probably surprised with me putting DeSantis up there. But, I really think that DeSantis' record in Florida shows that he's been doing mostly the right things here. On the Second Amendment, I've been pretty happy with what he's done. He could have done more, but, we now essentially have permitless carry here. Not complete constitutional carry, but we have permitless carry in Florida. So that's a big improvement, especially since Florida was the first state many moons ago to have, concealed carry licenses. So it was good to make progress in that direction. Obviously, cutting down Disney to size and making them as accountable to their taxes and their power and their local dominion of Orlando. and making it the same as like a SeaWorld or Universal. I think that's okay. I believe that you've got to have that level playing field. I know that Disney, look, in the Disney of old, and this is where we can't be hypocritical when it comes to these things. You know, before Disney decided to become a woke company and kind of go down this, you know, anti-American, woke, and you know, kind of trans supporting ideology, whatever you want to call it. Disney was one of the quintessential American companies. Like, let's be honest. What they had achieved in Orlando especially, obviously the original park is the model that pretty much all modern theme parks in general throughout the world try to emulate. Disney World as a complex is pretty much second to none. You know, when you're inside what they call the Disney bubble, you have no idea. Like, you really can't see evidence of things outside of it. Not until more recently, where they've kind of stopped caring about that attention to detail, was that ever the case. So, you know, it's crazy to see a company like that was the quintessential American company when it came to innovation, optimism, storytelling, family values, patriotism, all that stuff. You know, that's what Disney was at the forefront for a long time. And you know, they just took an about face in the modern era. And so, you know, DeSantis, I think, did the right thing in handling them. You know, I don't think the power of government should be used against a corporation unfairly. But the fact of the matter is that Disney had benefits that the other theme park competitors in Orlando did not have. So by making that now equal, is it going to deteriorate the experience of Disney? It very well possibly could. But that's also, I mean, if they have to spend that money in order to equal, or if that's got to cut in their profit margins, which may be unrealistically high, their parks are kind of keeping everything afloat. You know, they got to bite the big one. That's what Universal and SeaWorld have to deal with, and any of the other smaller parks in the area. So I think if you want capitalism to work, it has to be that even playing field. If you want to give them all benefits, I mean, again, then every corporation should have that. If you want to go super libertarian on it, that's fine. But again, this has to apply to everybody. You can't give special treatment. I think that's part of the issue here. So, Universal Studios, I would say that they do a pretty good job. And it's, I think they do a good job at the immersion. It's just not the same. The geographic area is obviously very different. You know, Universal started at a different time. Orlando was already much more developed because of Disney World being there, Epcot coming in the 1980s. All the tourism that developed in the area and grew around that turned Orlando from really not much into one of the major cities in Florida. And, you know, being smack dab in the middle of the state, you know, pretty much almost east to west and north to south, it was a good location. Pretty isolated, or insulated, I should say, and isolated from hurricanes and things like that. So it worked out pretty well. Tampa's a similar city. You got Busch Gardens over there, which is another fantastic park. But, you know, this is kind of like their story. So anyway, I went on a tangent there talking about Disney. If you want to really know more about Disney, there's great channels to watch about that, their history. I think it is fascinating because when you look at the way that a lot of these great American corporations have evolved, especially over the last few decades, it really does mirror the evolution of America throughout that time. Because we're really talking about companies in the last 100 years that have affected us more directly. So when we go further back, we think about different international corporations or things that existed that were kind of like corporate entities, but worked for the states or kingdoms or empires of their days. You know, East India Trading Company, the Dutch East India Company, all that stuff. So it's, So those are the things you need to look back at. This has been going on for some time with different faces, different names, but they really did. There was a time when a lot of these corporations did more good than bad, but it really seems to be that that's really how it works. Sometimes when you allow these entities to run amok and not have that level playing field, it becomes cronyism. And this is where, it really goes down to, and I've had this discussion with, somebody that I care about. It's really that you have, for capitalism or really any system to work, let's be honest, but capitalism is the one that we've got. You really have to have a sense of morality behind it. And I know I've harped on this many times since this show started, but you really have to have that morality, because it is too easy for greed to run amok and for a lack of empathy to run amok in society. That's just kind of the norm of human nature. So, we always there's always a trend for might makes right and for corruption, duplicity, trying to take control any way that you can without a sense of, honor or merit or anything like that. That's just kind of like how it works. That's how it works in the natural world. That's how it worked in humanity. That's how it's worked throughout history. So that's the problem. So you have to have that sense of morality for things to work, or else everything eventually deteriorates. I think that's just inevitable. So, a lot of people will tell you, well, this proves that capitalism is bad. And it's like, no, I don't think capitalism is bad. I think capitalism is the best that we can do, because humans are fallen. We're fallen creatures. That's all there is to it. Like, we're inherently, we're going to do bad and selfish things a lot of times. That's just the way it is. Or you're just going to try to survive, and you're not necessarily going to have that moral code in this world. So you need something like that for things to work, I think. Yeah, there you go. Money versus honor, things like that. With Disney park owners, also they swap partners. I feel like I saw that that Jay had mentioned that on like TNME or something like that, Wayfair. But that's just that's not something that I really saw too much about. I think I saw it in passing. That's absolutely true. Yeah, I call it cronyism, crony capitalism. Government collusion with the corporate systems out there. It's really modern day fascism. Let's be honest. In a lot of cases, there's less nationalism than fascism had back in the day, but there's plenty of corporate government collusion, and maybe that's the way they do it. Maybe it's just this reverse trick of how they always try to do it. So it's just the trends change slightly as history goes on, but ultimately it rhymes. The story rhymes. It's not the exact same story, but it's close enough that if we're really paying attention, we can see the parallels out there. It's just masked in a new wrapper. And really, the bread and circuses analogy from ancient Rome, continues to hold true, because look, we all do it. We all do it. And, part of it is just existing in a society and knowing that there's only so much that you can do. There really is. So part of the best thing that you can do is obviously having awareness, having, people that you really trust. That's really the hardest thing to find sometimes. Excuse me. And, having people that you can trust, friends and family, always the hardest thing that you can find. Having awareness of what's going on, educating other people if you can, because you really do. We need strength in numbers. That's really the only way that we start. So I don't think that's unpopular. That unpopular anymore, Rebel Scum. Rebel Scum 1776 says, unpopular take, Teddy Roosevelt was the first to start the administrative state. It was a horrible president except for the trust busting. Well, I mean, he did run for the Progressive Party, the second time around. And look, I love the national parks. I really do. It's not really libertarian. So libertarians out there, you can talk about the national park system. I think that they've done a lot of great things, but there is a lot of land in America that can't be utilized for anything that the American people could use, that could probably benefit, property values and cause them to go down here, especially when we have major foreign companies buying up land, Chinese interests, our own enemies buying land in the U.S. that might be good for the American people to have, or major corporations buying them up. So, it's always tough when you think about that. So, it was Nixon. That's right. Warsaw Pact. So, it's just interesting to go back and look at those presidents in the past and see why they were celebrated and who they're being celebrated by. So, Nixon was terrible. We know that. And it wasn't because of Watergate. Watergate was really like small time. If you really want to think about it, it was opening trade with China. It really was. It was a huge mistake. So I know what it was. It was the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Khrushchev, I believe it was Khrushchev at the time, and Mao were having some big issues, some big disputes. And Nixon and Kissinger is like, well, let's take an opportunity to jump in here and wedge these two apart, and we'll make them, we'll make the Soviet Union weaker, because the Chinese, they're not a big deal, man. We don't have to worry about these guys. And it was like, bro, why do you want to deal with these guys? And the war machine, everything getting started up with Vietnam was awful. That's really when we saw it really kicking off, isn't it? Gulf of Tonkin incident, all of that. That entire thing, Vietnam being a lie, going into Cambodia, Laos. Every terrible thing that happened there that led to pretty much all the other terrible things that the U.S. government, I should say, has done, the intelligence agencies, etc. And it was pretty much, downhill from there. And that's pretty much where we went. Try to contain communism everywhere. And they kind of bled us with death by 1,000 cuts. So, yep. Well, it's true ad Victoriam. I mean, we saw what happened. And I think that part of the problem that we have is that we think a little bit short-sighted. And, a lot of it can be the side effect of, communications now making everything happen in real time. So obviously in the time of the Revolutionary War, it took weeks, for letters to go across the Atlantic Ocean between the U.S. and Great Britain. So for the king to know what was going on at the time, or for the colonies to know what the king was planning to do if they intercepted those messages, it was all highly delayed. And even within, going from town to town or state to, or colony to colony in America, that took quite an effort. That took a lot of time. So I think now that everything happens in real time, we have satellites, we have communications, internet everywhere, wireless devices, cameras on everything. It really makes everything happen in hyper speed. And it's almost like there's no time to take a breath. And the stakes are higher than ever because of it. And I think it also requires a lot more thinking, because we see what's been going on with AI generated art, with AI video. And I really think that that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to cause a lot of problems. And I think, there's no good time for anything like that technology to come into play. But I feel like this is one of the worst times that it could come into play. So I think that when you see what they're trying to do, gain more power, try to control people's lives. I think part of it is that if you do, if you do believe in the things that they believe, You need to take control of, the population, take control of what people think, disincentivize the family, incentivize government, and the growth of government. So I think that's really ultimately what it's about to do. It's about taking away people's cohesion. So, typically freedom-minded people, we believe in individual rights, and the right to, keep and bear arms, freedom of speech, things like that. Raise your family the way that you want, religion, morality. Those have kind of become stereotypes of the right, or archetypes, I should say. Doesn't mean that you have to be, but that seems to be where it's gone. Even though I would argue, altruism, empathy, those are all important too. I think that that's something that we lose sight of. I think that we become stereotypes as well. I think that you can go across and have different, and we spoke about this a little bit last week, empathy and altruism, that those things shouldn't be, we shouldn't consider those bad words on our side. And we really need to have those things, we need to have those things as individuals, as people as well. Because if you don't have empathy for people, if you don't sympathize for them and their plight, which may be legitimate, and those are things that you have to know, obviously, and you don't have any understanding of that, or at least I could see what you're doing. It doesn't work out. This is something that rocket sauce, man. Rocket sauce, look at that, just coming in, dropping 50 on the table. So I cannot do what Reba does. Reba had his entire thing. But I can say 50 con rocket sauce. Thank you so much. Por eso, rocket sauce. 50. Dropping it. He drops it on the table. He's got spurs on his boots. Drops it right there. Moon rocks right out of the saloon. His mustache curled up on each side. And pieces out of that saloon. But he's still listening because he dropped the 50 right there. Thank you so much, Rocket Sauce, again. Much appreciated. The punchline was not supposed to be there. I do have to have a signature Rolo chant, Wayfarer. I really do. He's got to be the voice, these other voice, my true voice, as I like to say. This is my true voice. He could have been wearing a sombrero. No, he would be wearing a fedora, like a fedora style kind of thing. He's going to look like a Zorro-like character. He's going to be a candunguero. That's what he's going to be. He's going to be a candunguero. What is a candunguero? We'll have to bring in the old man, or we'll have to have him the next time that we do a Fortnite gaming stream and the old man is there. We'll have him explain exactly what a candunguero is so that all of you with the green names, you understand what you are and what you are participating in. So thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, man. See, now I lost my train of thought here. I don't know. I was talking about like international conspiracies and all this crazy stuff. And then Rocket Sauce drops the 50. The hat tipping atheist meme, rumor, and fedoras. Well, you know what I'm saying. No, I would say the hat that that Zorro would wear, or I guess Puss in Boots. That one's more like a kind of a musketeerish. But can I imagine myself wearing a Russian Ushanka hat for winter? I mean, I feel like they would work very. I feel like they would work very well. They're purpose built. If there's anyone that I would trust to tell me how to deal with the cold, it would be a Russian from Siberia. Like that just seems like they would be the people that would know, you know? Even in Moscow, that'd be fine too. But Siberia just gets a lot colder, you know, above the Arctic Circle. Like those guys know what's going on, you know? Maybe we go to Kamchatka. So, you know, any of those people up there, they're going to know. Maybe even a Canadian. No. Of course they would. Man, somebody from Michigan would work out. But they look cool. They do look pretty cool. So they had a lot of Soviet hats, either recreations or originals when I went to Europe back in the day, like early 2000s. I remember being in Budapest, and they had them everywhere. It was pretty crazy. They had gas masks. They had all this stuff. They had all the Soviet bloc, like Milsurp gear. And it was pretty cool. I was like, well, man, if I was able to at the time afford more of that stuff or just let alone carry it, I was like, man, I would have bought some of that stuff. It was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Oh, which Californians know they're cold? Californians know they're cold. I guess it depends on which part of California too. Problem though is that a lot of Chinese and Eastern Bloc cats are very small. The people back then must have been malnourished in the Soviet Iron Curtain. That may be true. That may be true. So I don't know. Maybe just go with the full face mask thing. So it is what it is. Oh, got you, John Smith. Yeah, the sarcasm just doesn't come through as well here. So there we go. Derailed me talking about all this stuff. Talking about Soviet headwear and all these things. So thanks a lot, guys. That's what we do here, though. That's what we do here, right? It really is. So, but, you know, what can I say? Let's see if related to this, because, you know, every time that we look at some updates here, everything that we talk about. Oh, Grippins are pretty cool. Those are pretty cool fighters. Let's not even lie about that. All right. Yeah, so I did see this too. Hypnotic, what's going on, my dude? FPV drones, like that's going to be the next thing too. You guys have seen this before. I've talked about FPV drones. I'm waiting for the hammer to drop on drones. You guys know how much I love them. You've seen the videos that I posted here. I'm sure somebody in the chat's going to complain about that, and not in the way that you'd think. Yes, we will play Fortnite with Hypnotic one of these days. We will. I promise you. He's got to DM me. DM me, Hypnotic, with a date and time. My evenings can be very busy sometimes. But yeah, just let me know. And I know you've been busy, man. You've been killing it with your nightly show lately. So congratulations with that. Breaking 30,000, dude. So footage of the strikes underscores the dynamic ways FPV drones are being used to seek and destroy in areas previously not possible. So Grand Thumb actually talked about this last week, I believe, on his channel. He had a couple of you know, basically U.S. and U.K. Former soldiers that were doing mercenary duty in Ukraine or Foreign Legion duty. And, you know, they talked about the kit they had. They talked about dealing with drones and how much worse it is to kind of deal with them, and how a lot of the drones that, you know, we use every day, whether it's just camera drones like Mavics for surveillance and range and loitering, or FPV drones that are custom built with off-the-shelf parts, are just used as, you know, kind of kamikazes or surveillance tools. So, and I mean, you guys have seen the maneuverability of those. I'm not a top professional FPV pilot by any means. You know, I have a drone that's not that small and that I don't want to lose. So I'm also not willing to take certain risks with it because I don't have like thousands lying around, or I'm not using them with the purpose of them being disposal. Obviously, I would never do that. But it's crazy. You can see the maneuvers that they can pull off. So for Mystery 92, FPV stands for first person view. So essentially you've got what are a pair of, they're like VR goggles, even though the cameras on most FPV drones are only one camera. So you've got like a Cyclops view. You don't have, you know, stereoscopic vision. So, you wear the goggles on your head. Looks like VR goggles. They have antennas as well. Connects to the drone. You use a remote that either use, looks like a remote control airplane remote, or like an Xbox or a PlayStation controller, and you fly it. It's like playing a virtual reality game, except you see exactly what the drone sees. They can go over 100 miles per hour. FPV drones usually can't fly for that long, but 5 to 10 minutes would be fine in this kind of case, because they're pretty small. They're probably going to be maybe 2 feet across at the biggest. I'm sure that they have much larger ones that are the size of like Predator drones and things like that, but those you usually wouldn't have as an FPV. FPVs are usually meant to be, kind of like suicide. They're meant to be suicide drones. So this is kind of showing how that is, and those things are fun to fly. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, that is some of the most fun you can have. You can see one of the videos that I posted on the channel. I'll toot my own horn here, as they say, because I was proud of this one. And I know, again, somebody's going to say something in the chat. But there we go. So we'll post this in here. So yeah, I think this is going to be something that we're going to deal with in the future. They are pretty easy to use. They're difficult to master in manual mode, but you have ones that can fly, if it's like a Mavic or something like that. Those things, are GPS guided. You can make them have, run certain routes if you want to do surveillance, across an area and have them autonomous. You can do that. FPV drones are a little bit different. But again, you can I'm sure that you can integrate software that makes them even easier to fly. You don't need to do the crazy aerobatics or anything like that. But hey, it's just crazy stuff. So, oh man, did that happen, Warsaw Patriot? Yeah, I'm not surprised. That's what YouTube does sometimes. They do not let you say certain things. So, but it's pretty crazy stuff. And again, I'm just waiting to see how long it is before something happens in the U.S. using, off-the-shelf technology like this. Because you can see those were like the different stages of this attack. So you get interference flying in there, flying into this warehouse. I guess they've got T-72 tanks in here is what it looks like. This is an analog drone, so that's why you're seeing the fuzzies dropping over the screen. So it's like a pre-90s television, pre-cable TV television, over the air stuff, running analog instead of a digital system. Digital, you'll get pixelation instead. Analog, you'll see the snow on the screen. And then here's the aftermath with a different drone, obviously surveilling what the first drone was doing. And then another drone from even further away, surveilling the destruction of that warehouse. So, this is something that we're going to see more and more in the future. We're going to see it's almost like the early days of flight. It's really interesting how this has progressed, where it started as, and this is, it's nothing new. I think that what's new about it now is the prevalence and the size of the drones that we're talking about. And the fact that so many off-the-shelf civilian drones were being used here, or modified in this case, and just how effective the weaponry is. But it comes from the early days of flight, where at first it's like, hey, well, we've been using balloons for a while to, obviously altitude allows me to look across the battlefield. I can use telescopes or binoculars to check out my enemy's lines and see what they're planning on doing, guide artillery and other things, and tell my cavalry how to flank. So now it's like, we got these planes. These things can fly pretty high. Like, let's use those things, have them take pictures. We got cameras now, and check that out. We got radios. Cool. We can talk with these guys. And that's how the technology evolved. And then somebody's like, we got grenades. Like, what if we just threw a grenade off the side and just like dropped it right into this guy's trench? And next thing you know, it's like, let's put guns through these things. Let's put gears that can shoot through propellers without shooting our own propellers off. And eventually it's just like, well, we're going to build planes that can shoot other planes, that can drop bombs on things and fly halfway across the world, drop nuclear weapons, and now they're just autonomous remote control drones that do the same thing and are evolving the same way. And that's what we're going to get all over again. So, we're going to see, we're already seeing it here. Their ease of use, they really are. I mean, I can't deny it. They're made to be easy. They can do amazing things. They can follow you around. You can get them with thermal, and it's very inexpensive when you think about it. It's like $5,000 for, a Mavic with thermal. It's going to be able to fly for like 35 minutes. That's a long time, believe it or not. Oh, and we've got the cat out there. She's complaining because she's outside of the studio. And she's very upset about it. So, they all do. I mean, every country has drones like this. Iran has been showing off a lot of their their technology. All right, let's get the cat. Let's get the cat. She's gonna cry all night if we don't get her. So let's grab her. Let's grab her. Oh, there we go. See, you complain, then you go on the show. What do you think? What do you have to say? There she goes. All right, there you go. That's cats, ladies and gentlemen. You know how it is. There she goes. Going around the back. Thank you. Yes, that's Ritsu, ladies and gentlemen. That is Ritsu. She's a great cat. I love her. She's like 5 years old now. Oh, man. That's some cold stuff. So, yeah, we're talking about drone technology. What these things are capable of now is pretty amazing. Prices are pretty low. Their capability is only going to improve. And, we're going to start getting, again, I'm surprised that nothing bad really has happened in a major Western country when it comes to drones. I'm pretty dumbfounded by it. So I really don't know. I really don't know how this has happened. It's a testament to, law enforcement and intelligence agencies, I'm guessing, when they do good work. And, it's dumbfounded that it hasn't occurred. I think maybe it's just not in the cards yet. But hey, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, God forbid, knock on wood, something like that doesn't happen. Because if it does, it's going to shift the paradigm of things. And I think you're going to see blanket bans of that kind of technology, which will be tough because they use the same, electromagnetic frequencies that most other devices, Wi-Fi, phones, and a lot of other things that we use every day do as well, the same spectrum. So that'll be pretty difficult to really go against. And obviously drones are used for a lot of good as well, for cinematography, especially for building surveying. So, and they can help in search and rescue efforts. Helicopters are expensive. They can't fly for that long as it is. You are putting a human at risk. Flying a helicopter, maybe more than one person for, extracting people, for medevac, all that stuff. That's awesome. That's great work for helicopters. But for trying to do surveying and things like that, disaster surveillance, I think that drones are hard to beat, and you can have a ton of them going on at once. So, there's a lot of good there, but the technology can be pretty scary, and I understand why people would be concerned. And, we can see how effective they are. This is going to really change warfare in the future as we know it. It already has. And I mean, the U.S. has been using drones for decades already. We know that with Reapers and other drones. and predators, I should say, reapers and predators. And I mean, those are full-size drones the size of small aircraft. And they've been, you know, obviously they have a pretty incredible capabilities. Now we're talking about things only a few inches across, some only a couple of inches across for extremely close surveillance. So imagine what those things are going to bring to the table when it comes to personalized packages of destruction. So, I mean, who knows what's going on? Chris, good to see you there. The cat's preferred caliber, I think it's going to be 308 now. And I think that's a good segue right there. So a lot of people have been talking about, I've been seeing online, you know, various gun reviews out there lately. A lot of people have been doing M110 reviews. The M110, let's give you a little bit of a review here of the M110 and the M110A1. So, yeah, we'll just open with this one. And this will just be the M110. Yeah, so the M110 is the M110 SAS, SASS, is in the semi-automatic sniper system. And, you know, it was based off of, or made by Knights Armaments SR-25 and adopted in 2005 by the U.S. Army. So it's a semi-automatic DMR, basically, or semi-automatic sniper, a sapper, as a lot of people call it, a semi-automatic precision rifle, so to speak. So a lot of people, man, that little border comes up and it's really annoying. Sorry, that just took me completely off guard. There we go. I don't even know why we have that. Yeah, let's just get rid of it. So, you know, 20-inch barrel, shooting 7.62 by 51 NATO. Pretty classic weaponry during the War on Terror. Had some teething issues going into things, but beloved by a lot of people. Had a Knight's Arm, I believe a Night Force optic, but originally I'm not sure what they have. That's probably what they have now. I should say, not sure what they had back then. Let's see. So you had free floated barrel, M110 buttstock. So fixed buttstock, just because they wanted more stability instead of an adjustable buttstock. You know, maximum a good effect at 800 meters or so. You know, pretty classic, you know, gas operated weapon here. And I know that PSA has been making some clones of them lately. And, you know, I've wanted a 308 rifle, but I didn't want anything. Look, when you're in Florida, you're not going to shoot very far. Like there are not many places to shoot at distance. 308 is still an awesome round. So it's like sometimes you need something more handy. So, you know, using the SA-58 OSW and Ready or Not, it was like, man, a handy 308 sounds really awesome, but still have that kind of DMR style distance, you know. So what you get from a 16, 18 inch, you know, 5.56 gun that you'd use for a little bit more punch. Well, you know, go with a slightly short barrel 308, and you've got something that is that's a little bit handy and that uses, you know, a pattern that we've got, like, you know, kind of an AR-10 pattern. So, I saw a lot of guys reviewing that, and then now we have what may become its replacement, or at least a, you know, kind of a new variant, which is the H&K M110A1. So this is meant to kind of take the concept of the M110, which I think this really kind of changes the dynamic because you're going down to a 16-inch barrel. So you're losing about 150 feet per second on your normal 7.62 by 51, but it does give you a much handier package with a suppressor. Now you have something that is very familiar to anybody else that's using an M4 or an M16 in the case of the Marines. And you still have an LPVO. I mean, in a lot of ways, it kind of dumbfounds me that the Army went for the M5 that they're going for, the new SIG rifle, the SIG Spear, when it kind of seems like this is what they were going for. So they wanted something that can penetrate armor. So level 4 body armor with newer 308, which, 5.56 can't in many cases. And you chose a different round, and you didn't choose 6.5 Creedmoor. I don't know. It's a little bit weird how that whole thing went down for me. I'm always going to be a little bit suspect, especially when you have other programs like this, where it's like, wait a second, this rifle kind of does a lot of the things that you wanted for the new infantry rifle. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing here. Anyway, so this is made by H&K. By all accounts, it's a pretty sweet rifle. It's got a Sig Sauer LPVO on top, 1-6. I don't know why they go that low. I didn't look. They go for a 1-8 or a 1-10 on these rifles, but that's what they chose. So it's a pretty sweet rifle. Anyway, PSA is making clones of these things. They're pretty sweet. I shot the M110A1, and man, it's a pretty sweet rifle. I really like it a lot. I think that it's pretty light. I want to say it just doesn't feel that heavy, and that's maybe because there's no optic on it yet. I'm just got iron sights on it, but it feels extremely, extremely light. It shoots really nice. Got an adjustable gas block. Now, the HK version here, the actual M110A is a piston-driven gun, so not direct impingement. So that's obviously a nice thing. Piston guns run a little bit cleaner. I clean my guns like every day. No, not all that often. Not every day, but pretty much every time I go to the range, I'm one of those guys. So that's not usually a big deal for me. But it was nice. I liked it a lot. I liked the 3-prong. That one's got a 3-prong adapter. And let's see if I can bring up a different photo of it here. Of the actual. Yeah, if you want the HK version, I don't even know if you can get one. I really don't even know if you can get one. It's here we go. So it's so yeah, the HK version obviously is gonna have, it's got a Geisley rail. This is PSA's like take on that. It does have the 3-prong flash hider here. They're different lengths, so you're not gonna get that tuning fork effect. So I've got a 3-prong on my Streebog. They're all the same length, and you smack that thing, or every time you shoot or it taps against something, you just get that going, and it's pretty annoying. So this is pretty cool. It's a forged upper, and 16-inch barrel, SOP Mod B5 stock. I think this is PSA's own pistol grip, and I gotta say, like, I have a Magpul K2 on my AR. I really like this. Like, I wish it had a lid on the bottom so you could enclose it and kind of keep it semi-waterproof. But man, I really like this grip. It feels a lot like a Smith & Wesson. A Smith & Wesson grip, or one of the SIG pistols, like the Copperhead, something like that. It feels really, really good. Like, man, I really like this grip. These Lancer mags are really awesome too. They look freaking badass. They've got metal feed lips on top, so they seem really solid, more solid than Magpuls. Also got they're 20 rounders. Also got a 25 rounder SR25 pattern magazine. So, I mean, let's just, you guys can look at the stats here. So if you guys want to see it, I think it shot. I'd never shot a 308 before, so for me the recoil felt pretty stout. But I mean, if you're in a, not having shot, in since before I went to Puerto Rico, I think, especially not offhand, like I wasn't expecting it. Even though I shot my shotgun the last time, and I felt that wasn't a big deal, but yeah, it was a little bit. It was pretty stout. But it was pretty nice too. It wasn't anything too crazy, I don't think. But it's pretty cool. It's not like a clone correct gun. I would say that their M110, the regular M110 is closer to that. But it looks pretty cool. The fit and finish is really nice on it. I love how the gun feels. Put a Blue Force Tactical Vickers sling on it, 2-point sling. I'm a lefty, so it's on the other side. And it's also a tan and green variety, so it actually matches up real well. I've got a 6 Hour Tango 1-8 LPVO on top, or that's what it's going to be, and some M-Bus Pro iron sights as backup. And it's pretty sweet. I want to take it out, see how it does up to, I guess the range we can go here, maybe 600 yards. So that might be pretty cool. So I think PSA is making really cool stuff. I've owned a couple of their rifles in the past. They've been pretty good. I always heard their AR-10s were good. So, it was why not, So it's a pretty sweet rifle. Love it. I'll let you guys know how it is after a few thousand rounds in the future. But it's pretty cool. I like it. It's a sweet rifle. So, and there you go. You don't have to spend like $10,000 for an H&K rifle. You spend like 9% of that, you're good to go. And it looks cool. So, yes, I know they also had a Mark 12 clone. They've got that modular shotgun. I mean, I think that PSA makes pretty cool stuff. Like, let's be honest. People have hated on them. Their ammo is pretty good. I used the AAC ammo. There, you can get an upper if you already have one of their lowers. They are their Saber lowers, though, so I don't know if you can just go crazy all willy-nilly. But you can go different builds if you want something a little bit longer. Or if you want to go, with a black upper. I guess with this one, you've got what you've got. You're just going to stick with it. And I like how it looks. I like the burnt bronze. I like the look of this gun because it's got some Scar-ish aesthetic going on. But the fact that it is based on, a real gun that does have, they've got more of a burnt green. This is more of an OD on the PSA model. And obviously you've got the cool HK selector style, but the LPVO is pretty much the same. The Geisley rail does look a little bit cooler. There's no doubt. It's a little bit fatter. It's chunky. I like the irons that this thing is running here. I wish I knew what offset irons. They almost look like Midwest Industry iron sights on some sort of canted mount, but I can't really tell. So, yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the Jackal looks cool. The Jackal was another thing, but 308 is something that I think you got to have like a battle rifle kind of thing going on. I think it works. It's pretty interchangeable throughout the world as well. SR25 bags are kind of common. So we'll see. But yeah, they've tried to make a lot of things, and some of it works out, some of it doesn't. From what I've heard and from my experience, it's been good. You can also, let's be honest, you can just get their lowers if you want. And especially for an AR-15, and put whatever upper you want, and you're going to be fine. Put whatever trigger control group you want, grips, use whatever mags you want. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're going to end up rattle canning it yourself or getting it Cerakoted by somebody. You can kind of mix and match if you want. Matching stuff is fine, but if they're not, going all the way down the line and matching every part, I don't know. I think your internals matter a little bit more if you know the quality of the metal that's going into your lower and your upper and your barrel and all that stuff. You can take that as how you will. Some people are a little bit more snobbish when it comes to that stuff than I am. That's totally okay. And you know, that is what it is. It's like when you're building your own car or like modifying an existing car. I guess it kind of comes down to that. Or buying something of high quality. So those are kind of like your three levels. Somebody that buys supercars and exotic cars and loves them and thinks that the quality is in their, obviously their expense and their rarity. Somebody that builds cars from scratch, like kit cars and all those things. And then somebody that just mods their existing cars. So that's something that we'll see here. But I do like that they're making guns of different varieties. You know what I'm saying? Like they really are trying to do different things. I mean, you can see here with, even here, they've got all of their stuff. So you've got obviously the regular ARs, the regular AR-10s, the Jackal, which I do love the Jackal. Like, do not get me wrong. The Jackal looks super cool, especially with the UGG boot. You give me the UGG boot and it's just like, why would you want anything else? And they don't have FDE right now. They've only got them in black, which is kind of a shame. But that's a good looking gun. Like that's a sweet looking rifle. It really is. Especially because we can't get ACRs anymore. And, you're not going to spend $3,000 for a SCAR. Like you're not going to do it. You're going to get a divorce if that happens. Or you got to be like Johnny 64 over there, big time YouTuber, and then you can get scars and OGs and all that stuff. I love you, Johnny, if you're watching. So you gonna sip your latte with those UGG boots? Of course you are. Why wouldn't you? I love that stock. It looks really good. I don't know what it is. And then when you get this thing in FDE, it just looks awesome. And of course, you can actually fold it. And then you can keep shooting after you fold it. Like, what's there not to like? Now, why would you? There's very few circumstances where you would have to do that. Or where you'd want to do that. But the fact that you can, it's pretty damn cool, isn't it? Yep. So that's it. Yeah, and they should come out with a 308 version. That would be fan-freaking-tastic if they did. Yeah, smash that like button. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. I like all the colors it comes in. This is what PSA does. They've got the Jackal. The Saber is their more premium line. So the AR was a Saber. I do like this multicam. Looks pretty sweet. That does look cool. You can get a nice combination from that. I wonder how good their jobs are, their Cerakote jobs. So, it's cool that they have these options. Look at that fixed iron sight within the rail. I've always thought that those look kind of cool. So, they give you, forged in billet parts now. They're giving you higher quality parts. Their triggers are awesome. That AR-10 trigger, or Saber 10's trigger is pretty top notch. So, it's good to see this effort. It really is like, I feel like they're taking that spot that Arrow has had for years. And, like my AR is an Arrow essentially. And I love it. I think it's a great rifle, but I can see where PSA is kind of, they bridged that gap. I think they're finally there at that Arrow level, that kind of mid-tier manufacturer level. It's like we're not, or at least they have products. They now have products that are at that kind of like mid-tier level, and it's pretty cool to see. And the fact that they're ambitious enough to make, look at that, they've got a micro dagger now. They've got 5.7. So I guess this is like what, a Glock 19, or what are we talking about here? A single stack? Man, they're already out of stock. Look at that. So this is crazy. And their guns run out all the time. What is this? Give me my magazine size. Oh, 15 rounder. Yeah, so this is a Glock 19. Yeah, barrel length 3.41. So Yeah, and by many accounts, everybody says that these daggers are pretty good as well. They're Glock clones. I don't like the little dingus trigger, but you can always get a new trigger. So you're trying to get more in. Okay, Charles asks in the chat, I'm trying to get more into gun culture. What's your advice on where to start? Man, that's a loaded question. Like, what do you want to get into, Charles? Do you want to get into like the history of the Second Amendment? Do you want to get into like guns for fun? Things like that. If you want to go for history of guns, like Forgotten Weapons is a great channel, Ian McCollum. If you want to go gun rights, especially a lot of his older stuff, I would go with Coleo Noir. I would go with The Black Man with a Gun. I would go with Black Guns Matter, Maj Touré. If you want to go for fun, I would definitely go with Garand Thumb and Demolition Ranch. Those guys are hilarious. The AK guy, Brandon Herrera. So, but self-defense, if you want self-defense stuff, there are a lot of great channels, a lot of great instructors out there. For situational awareness and just kind of seeing how things go down, I think active self-protection. Guns and Gadgets is fantastic. He's great. I got to meet him a few years ago and hang out with him. Great guy. He's get some Blackout coffee. He helps run that company. Awesome. Yep, that's true, John Smith. I think that's a good comparison between PSA and Vizio. That is actually really good. Yeah, so I would go with active self-protection. I would go with Warrior Poet Society. I would go with Coleo Noir. Those are good for different, for that kind of thing. So Warrior Poet Society is going to give you a bit of everything. John Lovell's awesome. He has his own now premium like online service where they talk about guns, self-defense, all that stuff, even spirituality behind that. He's a devout Christian, so he'll talk about that. Active self-protection more is John Correa. He'll show you different situations where different shootings will occur or self-defense situations occur. A lot of times they don't work out, so he just kind of explains the situation and maybe how the outcome could have been different or how it did work out for the better. So I would check those out, and Dead Warrior Poets Society is good. Jack Carr is awesome. Jack Carr is obviously the author of the Terminal List books. He used to be a Navy SEAL sniper. So he's great. His podcast is excellent too. It's the Danger Close podcast. So I would check that out. He's an awesome guy. I would read the Terminal List books. They're fantastic. Very grounded. He starts going into more world-ending scenarios as time goes on, but still very awesome books, grounded in reality. And I think they're fantastic. I think that the characters are great. Reese is a great character. I can't wait for season 2 of the Terminal List. I hope they do the books justice because the books are just so explicit in their violence and things that happen that you're just like, man, I don't know. Is Amazon gonna have the balls to do this? They're pretty awesome, and we see Tom making an appearance in the chat. How are you doing this evening, Tom? Good to see you. It is quite good to see you, my friend. I was going to try to see, let's see if we can do something here. I was going to try this. Let's see. Can we do it? No, I want a new source. Okay, let's go here. Nope. Let's go this way. Add a new one. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to do something here on the fly. No, Nope, that's not going to work, is it? Yeah, because I think that thing was plugged in. Yeah, I was going to show you the, because you can't touch things on stream. You cannot touch certain things on stream, or else YouTube will throw you out. They will throw you, they will cast you into the wasteland that is the banning fields. They will do that to you. They will not hesitate to do these things. They won't. They will cast you that way. So I cannot do it. But yeah, I recommend it. Yeah, if you want to get a PSA, save some money, or build multiple of whatever you love, you can't go wrong. Arrow's cool too. Arrow Precision, I think they're awesome. There's a lot of great companies. If you want a premium, already built, ready to go AR, you can go with Daniel Defense or BCM, Bravo Company Manufacturing. Those are great. You can get fully built out rifles. The big three companies all make their own rifles. So the big three being, well, who would be the big three? I guess with rifles, it's a little bit different. No, they all do. So Savage, Ruger, Springfield, and Savage, Ruger, Springfield, Smith & Wesson. They all have ARs. They're all halfway decent to pretty good or really good. They almost all make AR-10s that are decent. You can go with the old school Colt if you want that good old government contract satisfaction. They're not as good as they used to be, but I guess you can't really go wrong with them. So, no, I've not seen that, Charles. I did not see that. UK's firearm aftermath. Okay. Confucius says 1987, 1997, 2019, UK's firearm acts after mass shootings that took the people's right to own them. Since then, an average of 9% rise per year in assaults and murders with knives. They want to ban over 45,000 a year. That's usually how it works, isn't it? Especially like, it's crazy that, a lot of these countries change laws when it comes to guns, and then they create environments like the unchecked migration, the allowing of, basically no assimilation whatsoever with different cultures from, the Middle East and Africa. And they don't modify their gun laws or anything like that. And then you end up with these massive clashes of cultures where the Western governments of these countries don't do anything to protect, especially women. And crime basically runs amok. And they won't do anything about it. They won't, do anything to stop it. And they rather just disarm the people. And first they start with the guns, and then they'll go with knives. And then if you even punch somebody back after you get jumped and try to defend yourself, you're done. And in a lot of cases, that's what they do. In certain states like New York, you have a duty to retreat. In states like Florida, you have stand your ground. Those are basically the opposite kind of methodologies, where with stand your ground, if you're threatened, you can defend yourself, stand your ground, and that's pretty much it. It's cut and dry. You have to obviously there's certain criteria involved. You can't just go willy-nilly and be like, well, I'm not just going to use that as an excuse to shoot first and ask questions later. But in a state like New York, you have to like run away until you basically can't escape. And it's like, well, okay, that might be now. Like, what are you telling me, in my own house? Like, I should be able to defend myself in my own house. So it's just pretty crazy how these things work. And, there's no laws that make people safer. There's nothing like that. It really is up to yourself. It's up to you to be vigilant, put the things in place to defend yourself, and then hope that they don't happen. And you know what? Most of the time, bad things don't happen. They don't. When it comes to like muggings and murder and all that stuff, like the chances of that occurring to you are extremely low. But it's like anything else. You have insurance. You want to be able to protect yourself. There's a spectrum of violence too, of things that can happen. And sometimes a firearm does not even need to be used in a situation in order to save your life. Especially something like an AR-15 or an AR-10. You can imagine somebody breaks into your house and you bust out with that, especially if it's decently kitted out, and they're going to be like, holy crap, like, whose house did I just walk into? Like, this dude looks like he's some special forces guy. Doesn't matter if it wasn't that expensive. They don't need to know that. It's just as effective in a lot of cases, especially against a burglar. You're going to need like one or two shots, hopefully, maybe none at all. And there's just a lot of moments where they're like, you know what? Peace out. I'm not doing this. Not going to happen. So this is what we see everywhere. And, you know, they're going to want you disarmed. They're going to want to take away your ability to defend yourself, defend your family. And ultimately, the goal is to not be able to stand up against whatever authoritarian regulations they'd like to impose in the future. That's really what it comes down to. And I know people hate to say it, and it's not even a threat. It's just like, hey, like, guys, don't do this. Don't take away our rights. Like, don't do it. And it's pretty simple. It's like, that's it. You don't, you know, you don't take away people's rights, and you don't have to worry about the fact that they own guns. That's just the way that it is. And it's usually pretty simple. But, you know, that's why they want you to be scared of them. That's why they want you to look at people that own firearms with disdain. They want to stigmatize people. But the fact of the matter is, they're tools that, you know, used by people that are good, save lives at the end of the day and allow them to defend themselves against evil. So, that's just the way it is. And look, when you destigmatize this, you also can create a culture of responsibility and safety. This is what I don't understand. So they would rather take the ostrich, and by they, I mean like the gun control lobby. So the government's motives are obvious. We know they want disarmament of the civilian population so that they have a monopoly on violence and power. Okay, we understand that. But a lot of these gun control groups, it's more like, well, no, we don't want to take away your guns. We just want gun control and, you know, a common sense, quote unquote, common sense gun control. You know, and that's the approach that they try to take there. But that doesn't work either. That doesn't work either, because ultimately what you're telling people is, so if I pay the government money, so like let's take the case of the NFA, then somehow that now this thing is less dangerous. So we haven't outright banned it, but if I pay you money, then I get to own it. It's like, what is that? That's like a bribe, really. That's what we're doing. You're bribing the government. So it's pretty ridiculous that people think that that's okay. And they're like, well, hey, we're doing something right. You got to pay a tax to the government in order to own a suppressor or a short barrel rifle. It's like, oh man, now it's like, now that's a lot less dangerous, buddy. You're on the list. And it's like, no. I was like, there's criminals that are sawing off the barrels of regular rifles and shotguns everywhere, every night in America. Like, that doesn't do anything. There's people that are filing off the serial numbers on their guns. So ghost guns, 3D printed guns, that doesn't mean anything either. So, I mean, I really don't understand what all these things are. They don't make anybody safer. They don't do anything. All they do is make things more difficult for regular, you know, everyday Joe Schmo, peaceable citizens that want to protect their families or go out shooting and hunting or whatever it is that they want to do, and make it easier for criminals ultimately, because they don't care. It's like, okay, well, we don't give a crap. We're going to steal somebody's guns anyway, or we'll get regular guns and just buy them through straw purchases and modify them however we want. So, you know, it really is, it's pretty crazy what they think. And you're also trying to change the culture of America, which really you can't do. So you might as well lean into it, because let's be honest, ultimately, yes, Americans can be rebellious and all this stuff too, but we do have kind of a martial culture in history and traditions. That's how it's always been. So we appreciate those things, because some of the greatest leaders of our time came out through, you know, war. That's just the history of America. So, you know, lean into that. Hayden, here we go. There you go. Oh, there you go. Nice. That's awesome. Hayden, I love it. Hayden75 says, for 10, when the serial number is filed off a gun, we can still lift it chemically because of the metal indentation. We did it back in 2012 when I was in school for CSI. Hail Rolo, hail chat. That is awesome, Hayden. Then I must have been dealing, because I had a case that was part of in jury duty that I can talk about it now. And they had filed off the serial numbers of the gun. And the ATF was the proponent. They said they could not get the serial numbers or get prints off the gun. So I was like, you guys really seem to suck. So they must have really been filed off on that thing. It was a Glock 26, I believe. So I wasn't convinced, but it made me think. Man, this ATF is what is it? A mediocre outfit indeed. A mediocre outfit indeed. Thank you so much, Hayden. Great to see you in here. One of the true legends in the chat, let's be honest. Especially on the G&G side. So it's always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for the $10. So, all these gun laws are in place. And they really don't do anything. And then the ones that would do something are never enforced. Like, this is what we always find out later on. In a lot of these cases where, we have a mass murder, they were on the police's radar. They were on the Fed's radar. They were on the state's radar, whoever it is, or they had all these altercations. So, they rather... So, on the one hand, obviously, look, I don't want the government to do pre-crime stuff, but there does come a time when it's like, well, this guy's like threatened multiple times. Like, we should probably do something about this. Like, this is getting a little bit too ridiculous. This is getting a little bit too ridiculous. I know. Are they really on the radar, or are they not, Mystery 92? I don't know. Maybe they just say this to drive everyone mad, or to make us think that they were doing something and then they couldn't. So it's like, well, we gotta add more laws because, obviously the first 100,000 worked so great. We just need even more to enforce, because it didn't matter that we were tracing this guy in Parkland like 39 times and we had 39 altercations with him. It's like, you know what? We weren't able to enforce the other laws that were involved with the other almost 40 times we were dealing with this guy. But if we had like three more laws, that will be doing something. And if we're doing something, it doesn't matter if that something does nothing. We at least did something. And that lets you know that we care. And Cerberus has continued the party here by dropping 10 Puerto Rican Pistolero memberships. El Pistolero Puertorriqueño. And look at that. Hayden and Cerberus himself were gifted subs. That is incredible. We have Hayden 75, Miss 392, Joe C1818 Pureblood, Cerberus 09 himself, Good Wrench, Anthony Sharax, Loquacious, Coastal Girl, and Jeremy. Thank you so much, and welcome to the Candungueros, all of you. It is a pleasure to have you here. Thank you, Cerberus. You have done it again. You have dropped it in here. That is awesome. I love to see all the great names in the chat. It is fantastic to continue this legacy as we continue on this episode. So, and he gifted another one. There we go. Fantastic. Another one. So that's 11, just to throw it up there. It's like, let's just make it 11. A nice prime number. Thank you so much. Man, that's funny. There we go. There goes comic. You accidentally got yourself. There you go. So you had to throw another one. That's fun. I didn't know you could do that. I did not know you could do that. That's really funny. That is so funny. You can get yourself. It makes no sense, but. All right. So where were we at? See, I lost my train of thought, guys. This is what always happens to me. I forget what we're talking about. We know that things don't seem to be working out so well for Fannie Willis, these cell phone records. I did hear those things. They were not very good. They were not very good at all. So let's see. And I also did hear that they were going to try. There we go. Yes, that that Trump was denied the 30-day extension. 30-day extension. Sorry, I don't know why I kept going with the voice. A 30-day extension for the $355 million civil fraud verdict. The judge's face is just like, he just looks like such an ass. Manhattan Judge Arthur Engoron. Yes, this is from the now infamous National Review. So, like I said, I always like to get sources that are not necessarily on our side here. So it's always interesting to read them. Manhattan Judge Arthur Engoron. I'm sure that's not how you say it. It's probably Engoron. Has denied former President Donald Trump's request for a 30-day extension on the due date for a recently ordered $355 million payment in his high-profile New York civil fraud case. Engoron sent an email to the case's defendants on Thursday saying they had failed to explain, much less justify, any basis for a stay, in a letter submitted the day before. Quote, "I am confident that the appellate division will protect your appellate rights," end quote, he wrote. The email was posted to the court docket. In a court document filed Wednesday, Trump's legal team asked Engoron, who serves on the New York State Supreme Court, to suspend enforcement of the ruling, quote, "to allow for an orderly post-judgment process, particularly given the magnitude of the judgment." After the verdict goes into effect, Trump is ordered to submit the funds in 1 month's time. Trump's lawyers also noted that New York Attorney General Letitia James, who prosecuted the case, demonstrated an unseemly rush to enforce the ruling. This conduct violates all accepted practice in New York State Court, the lawyers said. In an NBC News interview on Tuesday, James said she's prepared to ask the presiding judge to seize Trump's business assets if he can't pay the $355 million fine and an additional $100 million in prejudgment interest by the court's deadline. Oh my God, that's ridiculous. The attorney general touted the verdict as Trump paying off a debt to New York residents. You know what I don't understand here, and maybe somebody else can explain this to me. Maybe I'm just a fool, but let's keep reading this, because I'm like, okay, so you got loans that you paid back based on, obviously he put his property as collateral to get loans for businesses. Those loans have been paid off. The businesses, the banks that agreed to those loans already agreed to everything. Everything's been paid off. So how can we go back here and say that he committed some sort of fraud? It seems like everything's been paid and it's all good. Like you're going back. I don't know. Somebody explained this to me. The judge's response comes nearly a week after the civil fraud verdict was given on Friday. Engoron served the $355 million verdict, and it is blah, blah, blah. Trump and the other co-defendants, including his sons, Donald Jr. and Eric, were found liable for inflating his net worth to receive lower interest rates. Okay. The court decision was made without a jury. As part of the ruling, Donald Jr. and Eric Trump must each pay $4 million after Engoron found them liable for multiple counts. Here we go. Hayden for 20. Legal Mindset's great. Christopher Rufo's fantastic for that. And what am I thinking? Discourses. I forgot what his name is. James Lindsay. Those are some of the best for checking out DEI stuff. Thank you so much, Hayden, for the 20. I'll have to check that out. But I did hear about that. And actually the old man Pistolero has been reading Christopher Rufo's latest book. And it's explained a lot about DEI, how its origins and how it's constantly evolved through time. So very apropos. Thank you so much for that 20. Okay, as part of that, additionally, former Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg is being held liable for $1 million. Overall, a $364 million penalty fine was issued to defendants Friday afternoon. Wow. The former president and real estate mogul was also barred from operating a business in New York for the next 3 years. James first brought the case against him, his family, and the Trump Organization in September of 2022, a few years after campaigning on the promise that she'd target Trump. James assumed office as the New York Attorney General in 2019. Trump plans to appeal the court decision. His attorney, Alina Habba, said immediately after the court ruling, the Friday ruling, quote, "It is the culmination of a multi-year politically fueled witch hunt that was designed to take down Donald Trump before Letitia James ever stepped foot into the Attorney General's office." Habba said, "If this decision stands, it will serve as a signal to every single American that New York is no longer open for business." Man, that is, look, I'm just wondering why now? How did this happen? It seems like such a coincidence, doesn't it? And I personally think that what they're trying to do is they're just trying to erode Trump as much as they can. So if they can get him somehow on one of these criminal cases, if they had been able to take him off the ballot, they were throwing every tactic, every strategy that they had, but they're just trying to do what they can without bonking him on the head and black bagging him in the dark of night and kidnapping him somewhere. That's pretty much where they're at. So they're trying to destroy his credibility, try to destroy his finances, his family, everything like that, in the hopes that he'll just give up, because they know. But at this point, they know that if he gets into office, like I think that there's what a lot of people want to happen when Trump gets back into office, and there's what I actually think will happen when Trump gets back into office. So I think that's something that we need to talk about a little bit too. And it's going to be dependent on if the Republicans win the House and the Senate, obviously. But let's say you get the trifecta. You get the House and the Senate. Obviously, the Supreme Court is what it is, so it's really not going to change. Greg the Goblin dropping the 20. I'm super late. I'll rewind at the end. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, guys. You guys have been awesome tonight. This is true, Hayden. I agree with that. And he's an outsider that was kind of an insider, because obviously being a New York socialite and political donor in the years prior to him to becoming president, being a CEO of a global multinational corporation, and having to deal with, world leaders and other international corporate leaders alike, and celebrities, things like that. That gave him a lot of experience that I think people kind of underestimated. I certainly did. I did going in. I thought he was going to be like a Democrat plant before he became president in 2016. I really did. I didn't trust Trump whatsoever, because he just had no history doing any of this stuff. I mean, he had said a lot of the right things in the past, but I didn't believe it. I was like, this guy's a Democrat. There's no way this is going to work. Like, I don't believe it. But they're trying to erode him. They're trying to scare people that would stand up against the system. And ultimately, like, is Trump the best guy in the world? No, I don't think he is. Like, he's been a womanizer throughout his entire life. He's got a history of doing that. Has he done some sketchy business things? I'm sure he has. I think most guys have gotten to that point and have as well. What can I do about that at this point? The people that are trying to erode our rights in this country are the ones that he's pissed off. The media that's lied to us about so many things and not held their end of the bargain. The media is supposed to be the fifth estate or the fourth estate. They're supposed to be the ones that, expose the government and its corruption, not be a part of it, not be Pravda, not be a propaganda machine for all this stuff. And that's all we want. We just want truth and transparency. Drunk 3PO in the chat. What's going on, my man? God bless you. Good to see you, buddy. So, I mean, this is really what he's doing. He's been the avatar for this, whether it was completely intentional, because I personally think that, Trump kind of jumped into this. Maybe didn't even really expect that he was going to win in 2016. It just happened. And he tried to draw this balance where he tried to show a sense of honor and forgiveness to Hillary Clinton by not investigating her, by underestimating his enemies. He talked about draining the swamp and all this stuff. I don't think he realized how much he pissed them off. And they went after him right away with Russian collusion, all this stuff. And from the start, that's just how it was. It was an onslaught. It was a huge onslaught for him from the start. And, as a political novice, he got owned in a lot of ways. He did a lot of things that were good. You know how I feel about the Second Amendment stuff and some of the COVID stuff. I think he could have done a better job. But in other ways, I think he did a good job, or as good a job as anybody else could have. And I think that when you look back at it in retrospect, it's much better than you think, than even I thought at the time. So it's pretty crazy. And you just you have to look at how hard they're going after him. And I think that tells you everything. Like, you can hate the guy, hate how he does things. He frustrates me with his tactics sometimes, because I'm like, man, because we obviously, look, people love it when Trump trolls people. They love it. He's a savage. And in today's internet culture, we love savagery. Like, we honestly do. I can't deny that. I love a good savage, a savage takedown as much as anybody else. I really do. But it's not an effective tactic for everybody. It really isn't. And he's also capable of charisma. And so I think there are times when he needs to stick with the charisma a little bit more and leave the savagery on the side. There are times for that savagery. I think that there are less and less moments nowadays where he needs that savagery, because those of us that like the savagery and that like that side of Trump, we already know. Like, who else are you going to vote for? Like, you're not going to vote for anybody else. You're not going to vote for Biden, and there's nobody else on the Trump side. We may have voted for Vivek, but that's about it. And maybe we'll get Vivek as VP. That's what I would love to see. I would really, really love to see Vivek on that ticket. I think he'd be the best choice, to be honest. Vivek has a lot of the same ideas. He's got that kind of MAGA core, along with obviously modern ideas on how to deal with central bank digital currencies. And I think that he brings that vigor, and obviously he can continue on as president after Trump if they do a good job. And I think that he can articulate a lot of Trump's policies better than Trump even can. And if they put Trump in some sort of quagmire, which, let's get back to where I was going anyway with this point originally. I think that if Trump becomes president, even if we have the Senate and the House, obviously it depends on the margin of victory. If there are massive landslides all around from presidency to Congress, I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. I think you're going to have a lot of Democratic protests, especially Antifa, BLM, all this stuff. I think that Trump is probably going to crack down a lot harder this time and request National Guard to be used. I don't think he's going to allow that summer of love stuff to happen, right or wrong again. I don't know how long that's going to last or how that's going to be. But I think that that's pretty much how that'll be dealt with. I think that a lot of the federal organizations that he would want to shut down or start stripping apart and auditing, I think they're going to fight back. I think that a lot of his enemies, you're going to see more like political stuff thrown out there. If the Democrats own the House or the Senate, they're going to try to impeach him. The House, obviously, really. So they'll try to do that. So I think that they'll try to make him a lame duck for 4 years, and they might be able to do that because it'll be the federal organizations or whatever branch of Congress that the Democrats own, if they own one. So the bureaucracy. So it'll be the bureaucracy and the Democrats basically trying to stop him from dismantling them. And I think that the best outcome that we can get is reform and opening the eyes of the American people. So I don't think that he'll get too much accomplished. I think on the foreign policy side, you'll probably see a lot more because he'll just be able to say, we're not going to participate in a lot of these foreign debacles. And if you F around with us, I'm just going to nuke your asses. You know, that's kind of how Trump says things. So he's like, if we're cool, we're cool. I'm not going to perpetuate war, but if you F with me, I'm going to annihilate you. And I mean, honestly, that sometimes can be an effective tactic. It works. They never know what you're going to do. So I think you'll be able to do things on that end. I think, I think we need to rein in what we're doing overseas. It's going to take years to dismantle this. Again, this is what I tell people everywhere on each side, honestly. I tell like the libertarian friends, like, look, the U.S. is not going to become an isolationist, non-imperialistic state overnight, or even in one presidential or two presidential terms. It's not going to happen. This took decades, 100 years almost, for the U.S. to get to this point after World War II. It really did. And it was getting to that point before World War II already as an economic powerhouse. But this is really after World War II that was like, well, last man standing here basically with the Soviet Union. So, hey, we get to control this stuff and we get to dictate the terms and we get to get a lot of real estate on the cheap all over the world and keep it. So it's going to take decades to dismantle this, because you can't shock the system either and destabilize this. So a peaceful divorce, I don't think is going to happen either. That would still take decades. If you wanted it to happen peacefully, if you want the U.S. to realistically dismantle peacefully, that would also take a long time, because then it's like, well, now you've got to come up with, okay, how are you going to split this up? Are you going to allow people from one America and the other America to go across? Is there going to be free? Are you going to have passports? You're going to have a border wall between them? Which states are going to do it? The left-wing states are probably going to be split in two on the coast. So you're going to do 3 countries instead. What if the California Republic, the People's Republic of California, gains an alliance with the People's Republic of China? Are you going to be okay with them building military bases on North American soil? I don't know. Like, how are you going to dictate all those terms? Some of those terms are going to be impossible. Is one country going to want to keep all the nukes and the other country not? Or now we got to split up the nukes because there's no way we're going to allow them to have nukes and not us have nukes? Or we're going to destroy all the nukes before they can get all, like, no, those things are going to be difficult to dictate. Like, it's a lot more difficult than you think. Splitting things up, the tax system, the way companies work, all of that is going to be pretty crazy. So I think the best that you can do is a deregulation of a lot of things. And I say you make it more libertarian within the borders of the U.S. So I'm not a global libertarian. Unless every country assumes a libertarian economic form, it doesn't work. You can have free trade and negotiate with countries that are willing to do that kind of stuff. But ultimately, libertarianism is within your own borders. That's what you can regulate. It works in a smaller state. So we start deregulating things, dismantling a lot of federal regulation and organizations that don't make any sense and that are redundant. And that's what you can hope for. So you're not going to be able to split peacefully. I don't think that that's going to happen. It's not realistically. And it may take so long to do it that way that you're not going to want to do it anymore, because generations can change. And it may be like that California somehow becomes a conservative bastion and Texas becomes liberal, and they're not going to want to split. So everything, it's just not going to work. So I think really the only thing that's going to help us here in this country is we have to have some sort of reawakening. It's got to be a moralistic reawakening. I know that if you say like Christian reawakening, everybody goes crazy. Nobody likes that. They're like, oh my gosh. But I think honestly, we need some sort of unified moral code and values, because we're losing what represents us. Those Judeo-Christian principles that make this country what it is, that stood us here, along with capitalistic entrepreneurial principles. You need both of those things. It's the only way that it works. That's why America was able to become so prosperous. But then people threw that morality away into the trash, wanted even more power, became corrupt. It's the same story that always happens throughout history. And obviously with the explosion of technology, it exacerbates those things and makes them occur at hyper speed, or we find out about them at hyper speed. Maybe this is the way we know that society was always like this. It's just many things weren't cataloged. And if they were, they've been either lost to history, or they're in some dungeon library somewhere in a government archive that we can never find. But now things are recorded. We have digital trails as well as physical trails. We can find a lot of things out. You can hide a lot less than you used to be able to. But that does make it so that the things that you can hide are really well hidden. So it goes a little bit both ways depending on what you're dealing with. So I think that's what I've got. That's what I got. I had to pull this show out of nowhere since I didn't have a guest tonight. I'll let you know when that guest gets rescheduled or when we get another guest. I know that a lot of you have been requesting. I've been trying to figure this out because nepotism is a real problem in society. I know that some of you have wanted the old man pistolero here. So we'll figure out a time that we can get him on and how we can do the setup or how we want to do it, because that'll be interesting. He and I have some pretty heated political debates. So it'll be interesting. So maybe we'll have him. Obviously, check out everything during the week. We do gaming streams here, mostly Fortnite. I would love to get into. I'd love to get back into Ready or Not with the boys. I would love to do that. I'd love to do some gun videos. I went out shooting this weekend alone, so I had nobody to film me. Especially slamming that 308. So it would be awesome. I need the OG to be on Rolo's Rants. To be on Rolo's Rant. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So yeah, you guys will see me around. Just go ahead and check out Twitter, check out IG every once in a while. I don't really do too much on IG, but I may post stuff there every once in a while, especially like gun photos and things like that. And obviously check me out on here, YouTube, and Kick. I do have to get good about going on Kick. It's just, you guys know I like doing this single setup kind of thing, but I appreciate everybody that super chatted tonight. You guys were great. And with the gift subs, you're awesome. Again, that was Rocket Sauce dropping the 50 with nothing on the table. Hayden with the 10. Cerberus with the 11 gifted subs. Hayden with another 20. And Greg with the 20. Thank you also, so much, guys. You are awesome. You keep this show going. I appreciate all of you. So stay tuned throughout the week. I'll be back with Commander, my younger brother, and my old man, the OG Pistolero, or the old man Pistolero, whatever you want to call him. I don't know. I guess we're like the Locked and Reloaded Latinos or something. You could call us father and son's Fortnite crew. So go ahead and check us out and check out Commander. He's on Geeks and Gamers Tabletop every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. He's been playing a lot of Helldivers too. So everybody tells me I should play, but I jump on all these bandwagons when they're already done. So it's like, man, is it too late already? I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe I'll put a poll here and we can see what you guys want. But there'll be more gaming here because I need to do. There's somebody in the chat who will not be named yet. They know who they are. They know who they are. They're laughing at me even mentioning this right now. Oh, I know they are. But I know that they've wanted certain streams. I was like, maybe I'll do different types of streams, or maybe I'll do some that I won't do live and they'll be like single player games. So we'll figure this out. Cerberus, you finally start playing. I like this season of Fortnite. I've been kicking ass. So maybe that's why, but I've really, really enjoyed it. So go ahead and check it out. I think it's been a lot of fun. Hopefully the Disney deal won't hurt them too much. We can always find other games. We always have Titanfall. So we can go there. You can always find me in the Drift. Take care, everybody, and have a good night. Bum, ba, dum.